So I made a post yesterday about addiction because an old picture from 2012 popped up and I had like massive downloads around addiction and ancestral trauma and how many people are dying. And it's not even really addiction that a lot of these children are dying from, because they're taking drugs one time and dying. But addiction plagues humanity, and there's so many other ways to be in an addiction. Addiction's not just drug use. Addiction is obsession and compulsion, trying to escape feelings. People don't know how to feel. We're not taught how to feel. So we escape through drugs. And for me, my addiction started at the doctor. They gave me drugs, pharmaceutical drugs, but they were drugs nonetheless. And that's what began my addiction. And I'm just thinking about how skewed everyone's perception is on addiction and how much judgment I received when I was in my addiction in the worst of my pain, because I was in so much pain. There were so many contributing factors, the biggest one being the trauma that I was not moving through and dealing with, and searching for somebody to blame when there was no one to blame. This is where the ancestral trauma comes into play. My parents did the best they could with what they had. My grandmother did the best she could with what she had. We are not taught. It is actually kept hidden from us, the self-inquiry and how to move through these things and be aware of ourselves and aware of our feelings and how to move through our feelings and use our feelings, and the awareness that we are creating this entire reality and that we don't have to be in pain. And it's not bad when we are in pain. A little bit of pain is good. It shows us that we're alive, you know. But we're taught that the slightest pain, oh, go take ibuprofen, go take, a Vicodin. So I was given Vicodin and Norco after I gave birth to my first son, and that's what spiraled, because I was able to escape the feelings I had been dealing with for so long. And then I quit smoking pot, and that was my coping mechanism up until that point. And it's funny because I knew I had a problem before I even picked up the drugs. Like, I knew, for one, my uncle was an addict. He died of AIDS from IV drug use when I was 10 years old. Or no, I was 14 years old when he died. So it's in our DNA. Gabrielle Clingon, the leading addiction specialist, talks about how these genes are turned on, the genetics are turned on from certain traumas that occur. And the genetics can be turned on in a family member. So like the genetics were turned on in my mother, and I inherited them. And even more was turned on in me because my father's side of the family merged with that. So I'm dealing with two severely addicted families, for lack of a better term, and I inherited that. So that's where the ancestral trauma comes in, and how it's generational trauma. Just now, in our modern state, there's more drugs, there's more ways to get high or play out our addiction. Whereas, like, my mom didn't have heroin pushed in her face. And that's why I feel like this is by design, because we have an epidemic right now. We have 10-year-olds dying because they took a pill that had fentanyl in it. So it is so easy to get drugs these days. You can go online and order them, you know, so that's why it's such an issue. And I believe it's population control, but that's a whole other story in itself and talk. But right now, I just want to focus on the addiction part and the healing and the way I was able to overcome my addiction. And it's a fight every day. I'm constantly going through the motions. I'm constantly processing. But I've made so much progress in the past couple years by allowing myself to feel and not judging myself, not making it wrong, allowing it to be okay, allowing myself to just be and not have to be perfect. Because for a long time I felt I wasn't good enough. I had this perfectionism, and I was fed these beliefs about myself and these stories that I took as my own. And once I was able to step back and really inquire within myself and find out who I really am at a soul level and drop all these stories I had, I was able to heal. And then the obsession was no longer there. And obviously I still have issues with certain things like sugar, which that's my main one I'm working on now. I don't consume any sugar now, but and also I'm finding out parasites can send signals to the brain, make you crave sugar. But I'm just trying to point out like the different ways we can be addicted to something. It doesn't just have to be drugs. My drug addiction transferred to other things like sex, food, people, emotions, because it's not the drug, it's what the drug's doing to you. It's the emotional state. A lot of people are addicted to drama, you know. But when we're able to be in our body and let it be okay to feel, that's when things start to get better. And it took me some deep work with self-inquiry, doing step work with NA, but going much deeper than that, because I feel like the program of NA doesn't go deep enough, and it never brought me as deep as I needed to go. So that's why I'm creating this course for people to go through the process I went through to heal, and to feel better, to do better, to be better, to actually live, and not be in survival, fight or flight. Because one of the biggest things I realized that helped me was that I'm no different than anyone else on this planet. I just happened to get in a car accident and be prescribed opiate pills, and that became my drug of choice, and that was my addiction, which was extremely debilitating. It's one of the worst addictions. But addiction isn't the drug. It's escaping the feelings. Addiction is described by Gabrielle Clingon as doing something and not being able to stop doing it, even though it's causing you pain or hurting you physically, emotionally, spiritually, not being able to give it up. And he also says that the trauma, it's not about what happened, but about what happened within us. So when these traumas happen, could happen the same trauma to two different people, say siblings, and one sibling it won't affect the same way as the other one. So it's what's happening within you. So we have to go within and dig deep within ourselves to figure out why we're doing the things we're doing. And it starts with presence and getting quiet and in the body and allowing ourselves to be, giving ourselves, holding the space for ourselves, allowing ourselves to heal, allowing these things to come up and feel, allowing ourselves to feel, because it's okay, and a little bit of pain is okay. So thank you whoever got this far in the video. Stay tuned because I'll have more on this. I love you.